Okay, this is a short video to just go over the functionality of the undergraduate change of major form, graduate change of major form, the CMHC concentration change, and the graduation application and the EGT change form. So academic records has multiple forms that have these sort of dependencies, and these dependencies determine where the form is ultimately sent. And so the dependency is a vital part then of the business process, the way the form is actually processed. And so, for example, on the undergraduate change of major form, down here specifically, this is the blank where a student will put in the first letter of their last name. Because our advisors are broken up by responsibility according to a last name alpha, we want these forms to be directed to the actual advisor for the student. And that's why you'll notice Genji has G through L. So if I put in the first letter of my last name, her name pops up right here. And the value behind this forced choice right here that pops open is her email address. And so when the form is submitted, I can then use the email address as a recipient of the form. And so just to kind of get in here and show what that looks like, first of all, we have 4 different possible options that can be selected or that can be prompted in the form. So if I look at A through F, you'll notice that the choice that would show up would be John's name, John Bartlett, and then the value behind that is john.bartlett@moody.edu. By making this a checked by default and only having one option, this is what forces, I've covered this in another video, but it forces this option right here. But the reason I want to mainly cover this is because the advisors, there's turnover on all teams, but the advisors turn over every 2 to 3 years. There's going to be, maybe a new advisor or somebody resigns. And so this is something that needs to be kept up on and edited every 1 to 3 years or so. And so anytime you've got a change in the advisors, oftentimes there's a break in the last name alpha responsibilities as well. The last names might shift from one advisor to another, and when that happens, we want to make sure that all these processes are still running accurately. Obviously, like if this advisor were to resign, we wouldn't want them getting emails for any student's last name A through F. How does the form know which advisor to put there? Well, it's actually on this dependencies tab right here. So you can do different kinds of logic with this. Again, I've covered this in other videos, but I just wanted to show this specifically to show how the form, oh yeah, that's right, A through F and then U through V. That's not a problem. At the top, you'll notice it says A through F. Nobody can see this, so just a note that does not matter. Nobody can actually see this, so this is A through F and then U and V according to the current breakdown. So yeah, anytime, like I said, you can build in different logic here. You can either have it shown or hidden if, and then you can condition this in either an all or in any statement, and then you can do all kinds of operators here and condition it on different fields and everything. So this is a fairly simple one. Basically, I'm saying show me this field or show me this form element if any of the following conditions are met, and that is that the first letter of last name, which is this blank right here, if the first letter of the last name contains any of these letters, show this option or show this form element in general, and this form element is set up to only show John Bartlett as the choice and the value as the email address. And so that's how each of these are set up, and you'll notice if I just go to the form and I change H to A, okay, all of a sudden I've got John. If I get M, I've got Rachel. If I do Z, I've got George. And so each of these form elements is set up to only be looking at this and pulling in or only be looking at this and validating it based on the first letter of last name, where if the letter that shows up exists, then this form, each form element will show up. That becomes a problem if somebody actually puts in their full name, then all of a sudden all 4 advisors are going to get an email. It's a pretty rare problem, and it's also not the problem we're concerned about. If somebody gets an email that's irrelevant to them, they can just delete it. The worst problem is if somebody doesn't have, if nobody gets the email after the student submits it and the student goes on for 2 semesters trying to take classes in a major that they never got a confirmation email saying that their major has been changed, and now they're just unable to finish the program the way they wanted to. So again, just to show this, we've got George Mosher, george.mosher@moody.edu. I'll show you where this goes into the sort of email send logic in a minute. But the dependencies, I just wanted to show that. So shown if any of these conditions are met, and that is that the first letter of the last name contains W, X, Y, or Z. So that is what makes that advisor's name pop up. So again, anytime there's turnover, you're going to want to make sure any of these forms is changed. Just to kind of show what those are, first of all, we've got the undergraduate change of major form, the graduate change of major form, the CMHC concentration, the EGT update form, and then the which is a form students can fill out to just let their advisor know that they're planning to graduate a little earlier or a little later or whatever. And then the graduation application as well actually is set up this way. But it's set up a little differently. So it's not by last name. It's set up in a way where it actually shows the graduation advisor. So the graduation advisor is the individual who sort of just oversees that particular individual's graduation requirements according to their campus. So Genji's got the grad school. We've got Rachel doing Chicago undergrad. Online is John Bartlett, and right now Spokane falls under George. So they are the ones that are sort of reviewing the final requirements for their students. We don't break those up by alpha. Yeah, I'll show you this one in just a moment, but before we do that, I want to go to the email and just show how these are set up. So each email that is, you'll notify ISO, notify Aviation Program Manager. Okay, so the student actually doesn't get a copy of this one, but there are 3 emails that can possibly be sent. First of all, this email is this particular output right here, this email that gets generated. This is the content of the email. This is the subject of the email. This is the recipient of the email, and this is supposedly where the email is from. It's not really generated from that email. Obviously, you can't do that, but you can make it look like it's coming from anywhere. So we have this set up to come from the student's email that they put into the form. Again, that's just to make it easy for the advisor to respond to the email. They can just respond to the email and say, confirmed, your major has been changed, here are your new requirements, here's some more information or a different transfer credit policy that applies to you or whatever. And so that's where the email comes from. The email goes to, and this is only populated when this field is actually populated as well. And so again, if I don't put anything here, first of all, the form's not going to let me continue, so they do have to put something there. And as long as I've got the right first letter of my last name, I'm going to get the right advisor popping up there, so long as these are being maintained. So A through F, this will generate nothing. This will M through R will generate nothing, and S through Z will generate nothing. But G through L will generate. It will pull in Genji's email, because Genji is the option that is open and selected, and the value behind that is jenniferjean.stouter@moody.edu, and so this will send to Genji's email address. I've got the same thing here in the body of the email. I've got just the advisor breakdown, so the advisor information will show up there. And then this isn't that important, but we've got ISO notified or the Spokane Program Manager notified in the event that it's a Spokane student. So again, anytime there's a change, this is just a quick aside, but the reason that we don't, You noticed me stop earlier when I was looking at the A through F, and I noticed, oh, U and V is also here. That's strange because the name A through F, this doesn't have U and V on there, so that's just a little confusing, but there's a reason for that. U and V, first and foremost, most importantly, the form functions correctly. So anything the student actually sees on the form, if their last name is Underhill or something, then or Vera or something, when they're filling out the form, John's name will show up, and that means that John's email address will show up as the value for this form. And so, yeah, John's email is coming up as long as they fill out everything else. When they submit this, it's going to go to John's email address. The reason I didn't change this to match what's down here is because anytime you change this is the name of the form element. So if I change the name of a form element, it's really, really easy to forget to go into all of your emails that have been written here and update each one of these, because the form element name is what's being pulled in here to generate to pull in the value from the form. And so I would have to go back in and just re-enter all of these according to the new alpha breakdown. If I left this and if I had made this advisor A through F, comma, U and V, when this form gets submitted, it's not going anywhere because it's sending to the value, to the name of the form element, which is advisor A through F. Since that doesn't exist anymore, since I changed it from A to F, comma, U and V, it won't work. It'll break. So the email won't be generated to John. Nobody else is going to get the email. This won't show up at all. And so it's a lot easier it actually might be easier to just do advisor A, advisor B, advisor C, advisor D or something. Because whenever you see that, you have the temptation to change it. Oh, well, this is U and V now, and this advisor is this through this now. But if you do that, you've got to remember to go in here and update all of the destination form element names. You've got to remember to update this, and you've got to do that here. You've got to do that there. And then here as well, and then here as well. So all of a sudden, you just made a lot more work for yourself for something that doesn't really matter because, again, nobody sees this. So maybe in the future when these forms are changed, that might be a good idea. But let's take a look at the graduation application here just to look at how that is set up. It's not set up by last name alpha. It's set up by the graduation campus. And so this is pretty simple. We basically have the same kind of thing. It's more akin to advisor A, advisor B, advisor C, because it's not beholden to any one any of those more confusing values like a last name alpha. So if you look at the Chicago undergraduate advisor, you'll notice same kind of thing. We've got Rachel Obinger. That's the choice that the student will see when they select Chicago. Undergraduate Chicago. Yep, there's Rachel's name. And then the value behind that is going to be rachel.obinger@moody.edu. And the dependency here is a little bit different. We're not worried about last name alpha. We're doing the same thing though. We're doing this field will be shown if, and in this case we do all, these conditions are met, and that is the campus contains Chicago. So that's fairly simple. It's contains for a reason, not equal to. Watch the graduation application video if you're curious why. And I believe that is everything for this. We'll just take a look at the emails. Again, it's set up in a way where your destination addresses are going to be pulled in based on the value that's put in. So if we end up changing this process flow at all, let's say one individual, let's say George stops being the graduation advisor for Spokane, and we have somebody else. We've got to make sure that, or let's say that John Bartlett's not just doing online; he's doing online and Spokane. Instead of deleting this or changing it in a way where you're going to have to rename everything, maybe just go back to the form element for Spokane and then just change that one to John instead of George. And then you don't have to change any of your email output information. You don't have to go here to the settings, which is where you find your email outputs, and then have to remember to go in here and delete MBI Spokane Advisor and then put in the new one. Because these are really important forms, and if we lose even just one, we're really beholden to the student's responsibility to email us in a couple weeks saying, hey, I submitted a form and nobody got back to me, or I didn't get a confirmation email, because we don't monitor the submissions here very closely. Now, one thing we do have on the graduation application is the student does get a copy of this for their own records, and then we do have a ghost copy that goes to A records. It just goes into a hidden folder that we don't ever check, but we do have it in there just in case the student ever came back after not having access to their email for some reason, or they lost the email. We could go back in A records and we could pull up this sort of ghost copy, this blind copied email, and pull it up. So we do have some fallbacks, but it's always best case to try and change as little as possible so you don't end up messing up your form 2 addresses. And that is all that I wanted to cover in this video. Have a nice day.